Alachua County school officials are addressing controversial books and students' access to them.
TV 20's Lali Salachi tells us why some parents are upset.
It's our responsibility to ensure that parents and other visitors to our website.
In the Alachua County School Board meeting, Superintendent Shane Andrews sought to set the record straight about some controversial books. Parents say they were concerned about the district's library database. School officials say although some books appear in the system, they have been discontinued since 2019.
As long as they have an understanding as to who those books are being provided to, that is a very key thing, because I know a lot of parents will go online and, oh my God, do you see these books that they're showing us? But what they don't tell you is that they're not showing them to the kids.
Some parents take issue with the book Transgender Lives in the library database at Eastside High School. They also shared an excerpt of the book Tricks in the database at Santa Fe High and calling its content sexually explicit.
I think that's crazy to learn that in school. They need to learn math and reading and writing and the important things, but that kind of stuff, the sexual education that gets in deep, you need to learn that at home.
Officials say the database will be revised by spring break. Some took to the podium to express their concerns about censoring books.
It's just not right to whitewash everything. So if you start with something like, oh, this book has some sexual content in it, then where do you stop? Where do you end?
A controversy went viral on social media about certain books in the database for elementary schools.
And it's important also, if you want kids to learn, for their brains to grow, they need to read. And, maybe some kids don't want to read things that are boring. Maybe they want to read something that piques their interest a little bit more.
School leaders say parents can keep their children from checking out certain books. In Gainesville's Lali Salachi, TV 20 News.